Mrs. Fryrick?
Are you here?
Mrs. Fryrick?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Posnell?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here.
Mr. Sanders?
Here.
Mr. Scalette?
Here.
Mrs. Schrader?
Here.
Mr. Sears?
Here.
Mr. Toman?
Here.
Mr. Watts is absent.
Thank you. Reminder to please silence your cell phone during the meeting. And this is the first opportunity tonight for public comment. All comments and questions will be addressed to the president. Board and staff members will not normally respond to comments or questions during the meeting unless recognized by the president for this purpose. Comments will be limited at the discretion of the president to 5 minutes or less. If you have any comments, please stand up, give your name and address, and go for it. Okay, thank you. We have the minutes here from the regular monthly meeting of February 18th, 2019, and the planning committee meeting of March 4th, 2019, and the special non-voting meeting of March 11th, 2019. Are there any changes and corrections? Then we will submit them, approve them as submitted. Mr. Sears.
As usual, tonight's treasurer's report is a consent agenda. Would any board member like any of the items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of the items? If not, the chair moves approval of the below-mentioned items.
Second.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Just a quick comment, the total estimated interest for the prior month is just shy of $96,000.
Good month.
So, good month.
I would like to offer congratulations to the following National Merit finalists. I think what's really great about this, one, is that it's an incredible achievement, but two, if you look back a few months, in the entire school, in the entire county, I believe, we had 7 finalists, 4 from semifinalists, 4 from this school district. All 4 are now finalists. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Samuel Goncars. Congratulations. You're welcome. Zoe Pratt. Bryn Walsh. Congratulations. And Caleb West. As I said before, that's the stuff that makes this fun. The board met following the planning committee meeting on March 4th in executive session as permitted by section 707 of the Sunshine Act for the purpose of discussing personnel matters. No official action was taken, and the board met in a retreat strategic planning session part 2 on, what, April 8th? No.
We'll meet.
We'll meet, I'm sorry. Dinner will be available at 6 o'clock, and the session will start at 6:30.
And announced tonight.
And
We had one tonight
and we had an executive session tonight prior to this meeting
for personnel.
for personnel. No action is taken.
Correct.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good job, guys. Congratulations.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, good. Oh, good. John, I'm sorry, could I just, with regard to these finalists, I just wanted to, first of all, they're gone now, but publicly congratulate them. But secondly, do we know of those 4, how many are K-12, York Suburban?
No, but we can.
I'd be very interested to know, because this is This is a K-12 celebration. I mean, I know a lot of times the high school teachers get the attaboys, but my guess is a lot of them go all the way back. So, sorry for the interruption, but that was on my mind, and I'm old. I might forget to talk about it later.
Experience.
Oh, experience. Thank you. Thank you, young man.
Take it.
You have two things in front of you. One's a superintendent report, and the other one's a personnel report. The personnel report's 18 pages long, a little bit lengthy, and I'll get to that in a minute. Wasn't that funny? As we move into spring, we're experiencing fewer school disruptions. In spite of delays and cancellations, many great things are happening in the district. We just talked about the National Merit semifinalists, so I won't read through that again. But it is noteworthy that all 4 students participate heavily in extracurricular activities as well. They don't just do academics. They also do everything else, which is not unusual for York Suburban students. I can remember...
You have to leave that open.
You have to leave it open. Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Ellis told me a story when he first got here as a principal. He was at a football game. He wasn't quite principal yet. And he saw some football players not going in the locker room with their teammates, and he was about to get angry and upset about that, the lack of discipline among the football players. And it wasn't because they didn't want to go in the locker room; it was because they had to go participate in the band at halftime. So that's the kind of thing that goes on in this district and has gone on in this district for a long time. So those 4 students are also heavily involved in extracurricular activities. 3 of them are involved, are musicians as well. And the arts are alive and well. We talk often about the academic and athletic achievements of our students. It's also important to note the accomplishments of our students in the arts. The recent middle school's production of Willy Wonka Jr. and the high school's production of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I hope I'm not stealing your thunder on that. The actors, the crews, the musicians performed exceedingly well, and they were well led by their adult advisors. Additionally, this weekend's well-attended art and musical festival showcased students from all grade levels at the high school. It is always nice to see the end results of students' hard work, whether it's academically or artistically.
If I could add a quick comment here, that Arts and Music Festival was really spectacular. And I want to send my compliments to all the organizers. I know it was their first year doing that, and it was just remarkable, the energy and the success of that event.
For that being the first time, it was phenomenal.
It really
and
was.
they already have ideas of how they're going to make it better next year. And in fact, they're out talking about moving it a little bit later in the school year, too, to give the artists more time to have their creations come to life and to display them.
I'll share that same comment.
The format of that where everyone was in the same school, you could, I got to go and watch my kindergartner sing, and then I actually had to run home and get the second grader who had to sing, but got to wander around in the building between, and just an amazing way to do it, and lots of people here. So
there were
it was really, really nice. I applaud that format. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just comment, as a non-parent, it was an amazing experience to be here and see all the art and to hear the groups. They even used the library for some of the smaller groups upstairs, which was amazing. And I'll put a little extra plug in for Zoe Pratt, who had a huge solo during the music concert last Wednesday at the high school, the choral, instrumental, whatever. She played a Haydn concerto that was beyond belief, and continued to play at the, she actually played somebody else played the cello at the Arts Festival. She played, not the violin, the viola, and is able to has that kind of ability to play in different keys and different instruments. A very talented young woman, which is just goes along with what Dr. Williams is saying about so many artists. But a wonderful evening, lots of grandparents here. That was fun to.
Lots of people in general.
Tried to introduce Dr. Williams to some of our graduates. We know that
Some interesting
there are
conversations
graduates
there.
Thank you.
Sure. Facility study. Last Monday, the board had an opportunity to discuss the current draft of Gilbert Architects district-wide facility study. We have created a web page that contains information and documents related to the facility study. It is available under the school's drop-down menu. Alternatively, you can go directly there by going to yssd.org/facilities and all of that information is there, including an audio recording of that last meeting. Some additional demographic information. Mr. Toman had asked a good question about our growing enrollment in a landlocked district. So what I've done is asked the technology folks, if you look on the table on page 2, you can see a table of data pulled from our student information system. And in a nutshell, what it shows you is that while we have a relatively finite number of houses over the last 10 years, and while the average number of students per household has remained fairly steady at 1.5, the number of residents, the number of unique addresses from which our students come has grown. And in my experience, that usually means you have a good educational system that people want to become a part of. So you have a higher number of households with students in the district. And therein lies our growth in a landlocked district, if that makes any sense. So I couldn't get any data on percent of households that don't have children. So this is a back door to get that same kind of idea. So is that what you're looking for?
Well, I appreciate that you went back and dug some more. I think it was a creative approach, and it does help to paint a picture of what's going on. So I really appreciate the additional data. Still not necessarily convinced about the projections, but I appreciate that out of that conversation came an attempt to get more information from what we had. And
we're always going to try to do that.
Yeah, that was a great, very creative way to get some information. But that was great. Appreciate it.
Can I say,
Yes, ma'am.
I did share with Dr. Williams that there's some more apartment units going up in Springettsbury Township, believe it or not. They put a new pizza place at, I think it is East Market, and it's Haynes Road becomes Memory Lane.
Memory Lane.
Okay? They're putting 2 16-unit buildings up there, which will add some, and then right behind Arby's off of Market Street, there's going to be another couple of units. So, folks, I had to laugh when I looked at this and thought, oh, geez, here we thought there was no place to go in Springettsbury or Spring Garden for that matter, and 32 apartments could bring us some, children on the other side. And I find it kind of interesting on your report, and I appreciate this. It's kind of interesting. You're saying that there's 31 students not in YS classrooms. But if you look at how many students we have in cyber charter and cyber charter schools, it's even more than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than the 31, this kind of thing. So it just depends what numbers you use where. But I do appreciate this, this added information.
Sure. No problem. And I hope that provides us some more insight as we move forward.
What does that column actually mean?
Which column?
Not in YS classroom.
Oh, serviced in other buildings, an IU building, for example, or collaboration with another district. Like we have some students come to our schools that are autistic students because we can provide that service and that kind of a thing. The enrollment and personnel report, the annual report that you have typically received in March, that packet is at your desk as well, and it will be posted online. There's a whole lot of information in there, and we could go through this for a lengthy period of time. But what I would rather do is I replicated one of the tables from the report that kind of gives a general overview of what is coming down the pike. So if you look on page 3 of my superintendent's report, you can see a table that shows, based on the projections, student projections, this table shows you that if we were to maintain the current student-to-teacher ratio of 14.28, I believe it is. That's what, 14.28 students per teacher, district-wide. That's just what it is right now. If we strove to maintain that ratio, you can see how many teachers we would have to add every year, and cumulatively to maintain a 14.28 students per teacher ratio. I'm not suggesting that's what's going to happen. I'm not suggesting that we should make that happen. I'm just telling you like it is, as far as in pure, oversimplified, raw numbers. We're looking at, by 2029, we're looking at 40 additional teachers, assuming the projections are correct. Some people think they are, some people don't think they are. 14.28 is our current students per teacher ratio class, and that does not count phys ed and things like that. That counts regular instruction and special ed instruction. So I'm not trying to be alarmist. I'm not trying to paint an ugly picture. I'm just throwing the raw data out there. It's where the numbers fall. The report goes and can provide more context about those various things. I would recommend you look at those tables and parts of that report to get a better picture. But as a summary, that's a good way to begin looking at what we're facing. The table that is in the superintendent's report on page 3. So if you are having trouble sleeping tonight, feel free to read the 18-page report.
This is why I'm going to be having trouble sleeping. It's going to make me sleep.
My pleasure. So, and that's the end of my formal superintendent's report. We have a few people with us tonight to share some additional information. I think we'll start with Dr. Stoltz, if that's okay.
Well, I too report with a thank you to the organizers of the Passport to Creativity. It was a lot of fun. Our students were there on Saturday highlighting their art and their musical talents. It was really nice to be able to have nice padded seats for all of our visitors to sit in. That doesn't happen at our school. And it was just really nice, I think, for the kids to see that continuum of learning. Often our folks don't travel to this side of the country, so it was really nice to be up there. So then this Saturday coming up is our Lego Bingo, which is one of our fun fundraisers. So hopefully we'll have that big of a crowd at Lego Bingo. And between our 2 Lego Bingo sessions, we do roller skating at the ice skating rink, and our mascot comes, Yorkie Bear, and he can roller skate like fully as a mascot. It's pretty impressive. At the end of April, we'll be celebrating Screen-Free Week. This is our 2nd year of doing Screen-Free Week, and we really try to encourage kids to be off screens. I've preached before about some of the casualties that we're seeing of little children spending too much time on screens. So some of our highlights of Screen-Free Week is we're going to be bringing in Martin Library again, and we're going to have this activity outside of a box, it's called. Bring in a lot of boxes, and the kids get to make a town out of boxes. We're going to have a hike up at Rocky Ridge with Tom McClemens as one of our dads, and his scouting troop is going to lead us through Rocky Ridge. We're going to have Wally Gator. He is a therapy gator come, along with that's to entice people to come. We're also having our book fair going on, but we're also going to have a professor from Penn State. We are now in 3-year of Project Siesta, where we have parents and children participating in a kindergarten sleep study. So now they're ready to share out some of the information about the importance of sleep. So I thought this is perfect timing with Screen-Free Week. I'm hoping some of what he has to say is about, powering down and helping parents know that, just it's not the best thing for our little ones. Our ice cream social, and then we're going to end that week or the beginning of the next week with a global day of play. So I assure you, we won't be playing the whole day at Yorkshire, but there is a global movement. It was actually the global day of play was in February, but we chose to do it along with Screen-Free Week. And what they're finding is children just don't know how to play, unstructured play. So we have a committee. Chris Forney, our guidance counselor, is getting up a committee, and we're just going to see what evolves from our global day of play. As you can see, a lot of this leads into the whole social, emotional welfare of children. We feel we do an excellent job with, the nuts and bolts of reading, writing, and arithmetic, but we are spending more and more time with social and emotional. So now I'm going to turn over part 2 to Kelly Duke, who is my administrative intern. So just like teachers go through teacher training and student teaching, Kelly Duke has been going through your college to become a future principal, and now she's in her internship part where she has to put in how many hours? 200 hours of various activities. So she's been, it's great to have a VP. So she's going to just talk a little bit more about some of what's been going on at Yorkshire having to do with the social and emotional aspects.
Thank you, Kim. As you can see, K-2 building is a fun place to be. A couple of things that I wanted to let you know that we're doing in our K-2 building. First, we did get a grant through the York Suburban Communities that Care, and that was a mindful grant, so I was really pleased to be part of that grant. So that involved teachers from different buildings across the district, and we all got to get trained by Kim Stratton, which is a mindfulness instructor through Mindful Schools. So we participate in 8 sessions, and the sessions consisted of, and I'll just kind of look at some of my notes so I don't miss pieces, but mindfulness elements, formal sitting practices, building comfort and consistency, and then getting ideas to implement to bring back into our classrooms. So the core elements of mindfulness are intention, attention, and attitude, and just how that works to bring a whole child and make the child mentally healthy, as well as focusing on the child as a whole and not just the academics of our little ones. So following the training that we received, we came back to Yorkshire and did a faculty presentation to train our faculty as well. So what we did is we created a Google Doc and put all the activities in a Google Doc, and then just took little takeaways to give to the staff so they had ideas ready to go and implement into their classroom. And that was really successful. And then Chris Forney, our guidance counselor, trained the paraprofessionals, so they had the training as well. And then lastly, the teachers were still showing interest in learning more ways to help the students regulate their bodies and emotions, and they just are always eager to get new ideas. So before I show you what we were doing next, I just want to show you just some quick ideas. So little things, if kids are coming in and they're anxious or stressed or angry or upset, simple breathing techniques where you just trace a leaf and you breathe in and go out the other side, breathe out. So a lot of the teachers have these in their classrooms and their coping kits and just ways to help the children. Simple, little zigzags where they're breathing in, breathing out. And then the last thing that we're doing at Yorkshire is we were fortunate enough to get funded by Patient First Grant, $1,000. So Chris Forney, our counselor, wrote a grant for yoga in the classroom. So we have eager teachers again ready to bring ideas into our children at our buildings. So we have 6, I think we have 6 plus a couple other specialists in our building that are getting trained. And they'll get yoga practices that will consist of more breathing techniques to do with the children, calming techniques, self-regulation, creating peace, and those things. And then they'll bring those back to the rest of the faculty again and help train the faculty. And we'll have other techniques to do as well. So research does show that practicing yoga and mindfulness improves the academic performance, decreases aggression, shows gains in emotional regulation, and increased relaxation responses. So we're thrilled to be getting trained at Yorkshire and provide all the resources and activities to our students there. So thank you for your support as well.
Thank you. And I believe Mr. Shirey is here for the middle school.
I gotta say something about an alligator. I don't know how you're gonna teach therapy.
That is a nationally famous therapy gator.
Really?
Yeah, it appeared on the
That's what
Daily
they tell
Show.
me.
Yes.
$50.
It's not a stuffed animal, it's the real thing.
You had asked a question, how many of those students were K-12 students who were National Merit Scholars?
I'm sorry?
Finalists, the National Merit finalists. None of the 4 were K-12 students.
None of them were. Oh, I'm surprised.
Almost. We did have, it was 2 second grade on up, 1 third, and 1 fourth.
Okay,
So it's
close
elementary.
enough.
It's elementary.
We're attracting them at the end of the primary grade. Yeah. Okay. So, the middle school. like always, I like to show you the pictures of what's going on. So upper left-hand corner, we have Mantech. We have 2 students. There were actually 4. 2 of them made the picture. But they entered a contest. It was 22 school districts who entered through Mantech, and the title was "What's So Cool About Manufacturing?" And so the students put together a video on the company was Allegheny York County with Mr. Moore, and there were a lot of different awards, but those students won the outstanding videography winner, which we were pretty proud of. So that's the top left. The center, I won't say too much. That was our Charlie and Chocolate Factory musical. We've already heard that. A lot of kudos. Some of you came to it, and I would always encourage all of you to come to our musicals. That was my first year at the middle school, and it was fantastic. Upper right-hand corner, you'll see that was called See a Need, Take a Lead. That was run by Mr. Knoll and Mr. Fisher. They took a group of students to the York Benevolent Association where they sorted and as a volunteer activity. Lower left-hand corner was Mr. Scalette and I, our long weekend. We had a 6th grade dance, we had a 7th and 8th grade dance Friday night, and we had bowling Friday night, and we had bowling all day Saturday. It was Bowl for Kids' Sake. We had just under 300 students come to our dance. It was an amazing dance. It was an Aloha dance. And then Bowl for Kids' Sake, we had 223 students participate in the Bowl for Kids' Sake. Right now, we're not done counting the money, but right now we're a little over $16,000 raised. We have around $3,000 was raised by staff. So that was a successful weekend, I would say, and we're very proud of all the student leadership that really ran that. Bottom center, that's our act of kindness. The middle level, it's our last big opportunity to talk about character education with students, and so it's a hallmark, it's a pillar of middle school education. So what we're doing this year, one of our activities is an act of kindness, and so any student who participates, all they have to do is do a random act of kindness to anyone outside of the school district, and it's kind of like a pay it forward thought. Susquehanna Apparel partnered with us this year, and they helped create this T-shirt at either at cost or below cost, because I never saw a T-shirt priced so cheap, but it was about $2, and they made us a T-shirt for each of our students, and it says, "Together we make a difference." So right now we have about 300 participants with that, and we're continuing that through the rest of the year. We had our staff picture, so we had a staff day, and we will be having a student day coming up next Thursday. So we're excited for that. On the right-hand side with the little red cross, that was our Stop the Bleed. We took a little bit of time away with some professional development. Katie Green is one of our science teachers. She brought her husband in, who is a helicopter EMT. He's our York County. So if you ever get injured, he's the guy who flies to you, picks you up, and takes you to Hershey or takes you wherever. So he's a highly trained. She actually brought her son as well, who's a senior, who's also going to become a nurse. He goes to West York. But they brought a whole crew of helicopter EMT people, and they came and trained us on Stop the Bleed. So we are now officially trained in case there were ever to be an accident in our building, that we all have tourniquets, and we would know how to stop the bleed in that emergency.
Is that an example on your right hand?
No, this stitches from the weekend. Rushing with woodworking equipment doesn't go too well. And in the lower right-hand corner, we just wrapped up our science fair. We had 11 first-place winners. We did not have a grand champion or champion, but we did have 11 first-place winners, and we did have 3 recognized by professional organizations for their work. So we had a lot to be proud of in the past month and a half.
Nice.
Thank you very much. And that concludes Superintendent's report.
Thank you.
Thank you. First item, the administration recommends board approval of the proposed Lincoln Intermediate Unit 2019-20 general operating budget. This budget represents a $153.23 increase to the district from this year's budget contribution of $23,654.12. Our contribution for next year is $23,807.35.
So moved.
Second.
This will be a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The next three items are contracts that the administration is asking for board approval. The first one is with HIG. The second one is with SSM for the boilers at East York Elementary, and the third one is for Kinsley for the middle school.
So moved.
Second. Questions, comments?
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. Next item, the administration recommends board approval to advertise and solicit bids for the high school stair tread replacement project, the gymnasium floor refinishing, painting, and backstop replacement project, the East York Elementary flooring project, and MEP upgrades for the high school, Indian Rock Elementary, and Valley View Elementary.
So moved.
Second. Questions or comments?
I would like to add the bid opening for the high school projects will be April 10th at 2 o'clock. The bid opening for the East York will be April 9th at 2 o'clock. And we don't have the bid opening date for the MEP projects yet.
Thank you.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The next item, I'm going to pull for the April 1st meeting. We'll have that as a vote. There has been a change to the MOU that we were going to present, a change from up above. So we will get that in place, and then I'll bring it back. Last item, the administration recommends board approval of the additional bus van driver for the 18-19 school year.
So moved.
Second. Questions, comments? Short roll call.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. Informational, you have the budget comparison that is sitting in front of you. As usual, I'll go over the highlighted items that there would have been a change from the last time you saw this. The first one being the real estate. The change on this is what's come out of Finance Committee, the 1% tax increase. So that's reflected in this number now. The next item is the earned income tax. We talked about this at Finance as well. I had bumped this number last time you saw this, it was at 3.3, and I've upped it to 3.6. The last item on the page is the miscellaneous revenue. That is up to $5.8 million. Again, this was discussed at the Finance Committee, the 1.3 that we will be receiving from LBT later in the year. That is reflected here as well as on the expense side. And that's where all of the changes have come on the revenue, is in the local part. Nothing's changed state, federal, or other. Moving on to the expenses, the only thing that has changed there is, in fact, that 1.3 that's coming from LBT. So that would be on the third page of the expense report, the expense section. I thought possibly we get to the finalization on the payroll. We're not there yet. If you're flipping through the pages, it would actually be on page 4. Okay? So then the summary, which is on the very last page, reflects the change in the revenue and expense with the change in fund balance for next year being at 1.29. And you received an email from me earlier today about a document that's posted under confidential for the board. This number ties into that number as well. You have the full-blown itemization that we had talked about at Finance Committee. Any questions?
You expect that all the major changes are now complete?
Except for the payroll. Yeah, and right now it's just going through all of the reports and making sure everything's accounted for. It's our, final review. Unless somebody hits the lottery and wants to donate it. And if there are any questions after you look at the other document, feel free to contact me. Any questions on the food service dining report or the sales report? That concludes my report then.
I don't have too much to report tonight, but I'd like to begin by congratulating our high school swim team for their performance at state. The boys relay team placed 19th in the medley relay, while the girls relay team placed 16th. Also, congratulations to sophomore Sophia Geyer, who placed 6th in the 100 back and 11th in the 200 IM. Last Tuesday, high school students were inducted into French, German, and Spanish Honor Society, as well as the National Art Honor Society on Friday evening at the Art Festival. So congratulations to all the inductees. Cast lists have been posted and rehearsals have started for the high school theaters, the theater department's next show coming this spring. And our spring sports teams at both the middle school and high school have been hard at work practicing after school and have had the first scrimmages, matches, and tournaments of the season. So keep an eye out for the first home competition coming up soon, as well as the next theater department production. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee reports, committee meeting schedule is posted here online.
Yes, the minutes are posted there for the meeting we had back in November, but I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. We had a meeting last week on the 14th, and some pertinent information was discussed with regard to proposed changes for the high school. I won't go into big discussion about that. We'll save that for planning on the 1st of April. But Dr. Williams gave you a link in his report on Friday that went out to us, and they're also posted in the confidential section. I would just encourage everybody to go through, in preparation for planning, go through that report, especially if you weren't in attendance on Wednesday. But we're going to need to vote on that in for the April voting meeting, and I just kind of wanted to give everybody a heads up for that in case you had a tight schedule, so you wouldn't be caught unaware that that's going to be a discussion for April 1st planning. And other than that, that concludes my report.
The activities and communication reports are provided. Our first communications meeting for the calendar year will be in April. There's no further report.
Mr. Sears.
Finance Committee met on February 13th.
Try that one again.
We met on March 13th. Our first order of business was to review the minutes of February 13th. They are provided tonight. We had an administrator's report as usual. Ms. Mason brought us up to date on the general fund budget and showed us her gap worksheet with a narrowing of the gap. I'll cut to the bottom line here, which is actually shown in the earlier exhibits, and that was the discussion about assuming a 1% tax increase in next year's budget, and that is now reflected. She also presented a list of proposed purchases totaling $147,000, of which $137,000 would be purchased from the capital reserve, so the impact on the operating budget was $10,000, and that was for band uniforms. Food service budget, we project a surplus of $39,000 for the year, yielding a total surplus in that fund of just over $1 million by the end of the year, if that in fact happens. And there will be no increase in meal prices this year. Meeting was adjourned at 6:30.
Thank you, Mr. Posnell. You have before you the personnel report, which includes employment and volunteers. Would any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of these items? If not, the chair moves approval of the below-mentioned items.
Second?
Second, sir. Second.
Sure.
Sure, why not?
Second.
Second.
Questions or comments?
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Legislative update. I know the one you've all been waiting for with breathless anticipation, right? Well, on March 28th, at the Community Engagement Center downtown, Representative Carol Hill Evans will be holding a meeting/hearing on early childhood development, and representatives of the district will be in attendance. In addition, the following day, March 29th, we're tentatively scheduled, that is Dr. Williams, Mr. Sears, and I are tentatively scheduled to meet with Representative Keith Gillespie Friday afternoon. We've been having some trouble getting on Representative Gillespie's calendar because he's currently up in Carbon County or Potter County, someplace up north, where there are a lot of black bears. He is studying the black bears in the hopes that we can get a therapy bear at some point in the future. He doesn't know it yet, but he will. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Ms. Ferrari, LIU.
The LIU had the Dawn's Early Light, which is their highlights of what took place at the board meeting. Also, the LIU Joint Operating Report Authority will be meeting next week, so maybe I'll have something coming out of that meeting. York Adams Academy, I also have a meeting for that next week, and as of Friday, we had 12 of our 12 seats filled. I can always get you up to date because I get that report once a week as opposed to waiting for the monthly report, and that concludes my reports.
No report.
York County School of Technology.
I have no report this evening.
Thank you, everybody, for coming and sitting with us. The board meeting schedule is published up online, and this is your last opportunity for comments. Anything else? We are adjourned.